Welcome to episode 110 of 5 Minutes of X. Mutants have survived extinction level events. We can survive being a little over 5 minutes. I'm reading every mutant comic Marvel ever made month by month, and this week we finally get all the answers to all those issues we've been wondering about, all the closure we've been building to with our furry beast story. Or maybe Marvel completely drops the ball and we get no answers at all. But let's find out. Welcome to October of 1972, where Marvel drops 2 mutant books. On the 11th, we get the Avengers number 107, written by Steve Englehart, and has 2 artists this time, Jim Starlin on pages 1 through 3 and 14 through 20, while George Tuska is credited with pages 4 through 13. And you can tell, but we'll get to that later. Then on October 17th, 1972, the final part of our Beast solo story ends with Amazing Adventures 16. Lots of shenanigans on this book. Steve Englehart was the author here, as well as Bob Brown is listed as the artist for the issue. First of all, there are no photos of this dude. Literally no photos of this guy. Nothing on Google. Nothing on League of Comic Geeks, Marvel Fandom, Comicville, or Wikipedia. He's been drawing a comic starting in like the 1940s, and he died of leukemia in 1977. This guy has a ton of credits in the 50s and 60s, and will actually draw some X-Men after they come back in 1975. Here, he gets the sole artist credit on the page, but Marie Severin is credited as caricaturist. She drew the faces of Jerry Conway, Len Wein, Glennis Wein, Steve Englehart, and Tom Fagan. Comic fans may recognize all those names. Some of them we've mentioned on this very channel, but they are comic creators who were snuck into this story in a fun way. Additionally, this story unofficially crosses over with Thor number 207 and Justice League of America number 103, a DC book. I did actually read both of these books. You won't be missing anything if you skip them. Okay, one final note. Amazing Adventures number 17 was released on December 12th, 1972, and it reprints Hank McCoy's origin story, covered as it was happening in the X-Men issues number 49 through 53. I'm bringing it up here because in this issue we see 2 new pages drawn for this particular comic, but no new story. I will show those 2 pages at the end, but Steve Englehart wrote the dialogue and Jim Starlin drew them, covering for just kind of completeness here. There's no new significant story or merit to merit it like its own episode or anything. It's just those 2 pages. Avengers number 107 has a cover that should have been the splash page. Our villain, the Space Phantom, is enlarged for effect and holding Wanda while the other heroes try to free her. The actual splash is just the heroes in a force bubble. In comics, that's the lazy way to just show the reader people have been captured. It's really lazy. Okay, so setting up from the last issue, Black Panther, Scarlet Witch, Iron Man, and Hawkeye are prisoners of the Space Phantom and the Grim Reaper. Pietro is still missing, and no one is even looking for him in this particular issue. Okay. Cap and the Vision are the only Avengers still free. Both are running separate threads this issue. Neither of those threads contain any X-Gene at all. Cap's returning memories are drawing him into an abandoned warehouse, which he begins to recall was a front for a hidden Hydra base. Below the building there. Some other time. We didn't read that issue. The Space Phantom had previously taken the form of Viper and then the Supreme Hydra during Cap's last battle against this organization. I don't know. When the Phantom was unmasked by Cap, he paralyzed Cap and Rick Jones, then used the power to make the entire world forget that Captain America was Steve Rogers. I guess he suppressed their memories of the whole event, I guess, which is why his memories are coming back slowly. I'm super bored by this whole story. Cap is now piecing all of this together, and I really just don't care. The Vision is wandering the city, brooding over the Grim Reaper's offer to transfer his mind into the body of Wonder Man. The Reaper reappears Avengers takes Vision to where Wonder Man's body is being stored, and then reveals the twist. He can't actually put Vision into Wonder Man's body because Wonder Man is actually dead. The real offer is the body of Captain America instead, which is actually like way more interesting than the Cap story. The Reaper explains the whole plan, which is that the Space Phantom was originally trapped in limbo after Avengers number 2, but was freed when Loki, unrelated to this story, banished Jane Foster to limbo and Journey into Mystery number 108. That actually was a good issue if you're ever curious to read it. The Phantom found the Grim Reaper, and the two formed a partnership toward sort of that mutual goal of taking care of Cap. The issue ends with the Grim Reaper asking Vision one final time whether he'll join them and accept Captain America's body to become human. Viz, well, he answers yes. It's kind of cool. Amazing Adventures 16 opens with a splash page of a red-eyed beast menacingly crossing a lonely road in the wooded area. Text box tells us it's Halloween in Rutland, Vermont, but we don't yet know why or even how Beast is there. He scares the hell out of some young adults driving on this dark road. They stop and get out of the car, and this car is like total crap, and that's kind of the funny haha plot. The car sucks. After almost hitting Beast, they find we find out that they happen to be famous comic book creators of the time. We see Roy Thomas and his wife Janine. We see Steve Englehart, Jerry Conway, Len Wein, and his wife Glennis. Beast ducks into the trees and switches back into his rubber human disguise. Then meets with Vera in the woods. She is clearly with him, and it doesn't appear she knows that he is Beast. She just thinks he's Hank still. Anyway, the two of them emerge from the woods, and Hank plays it off like he just flagged down a ride. The writers give them a lift towards Rutland while driving. A portal rips open, and the Juggernaut bursts through. Exhilarated to be back on Earth. You may remember that back when we thought Professor X was dead, we learned that the professor had trapped his stepbrother, the Juggernaut, in that weird dimension. A second portal immediately sort of yanks Juggernaut right back into that mystical void. While in that limbo, a voice in Juggernaut's head explains the situation. After the X-Men banished him to the Crimson Cosmos, that's where he's banished, and Doctor Strange sent him further into oblivion. Strange's recent Halloween visit to Rutland, combined with the Beast's current presence in the area, has created a mystical anchor. This is all dumb. And it's kind of clear someone just wanted a Juggernaut story. But anyway, as midnight draws closer, the combination of his enemies, his rage, Rutland's mystic properties, and it being Halloween will keep pulling the Juggernaut back to Earth with increasing strength. So he will pop in and out for the duration of the issue. I like seeing Juggernaut, but this is a stupid plot. Okay, so the writers drop Hank and Vera off in Rutland near the Halloween parade, but it's mentioned that they can't get them into someone's house party. It's really, really important that you know that this is Tom Fagan's party. What's kind of interesting about this is that this Tom fella is the same guy who threw the parade in Avengers when all the chicks turned on the dudes. I don't know if you remember that issue, but it's actually a little fun Easter egg here. Hank decides that he and Vera will stay to enjoy the Halloween parade. Vera wants to get to Canada in the next week or the world will die, but Hank doesn't see the urgency. The Juggernaut pops back into Rutland in the middle of that parade and goes on a total rampage, then gets yanked back into the void again, vowing he'll return later. This page is doing something genuinely clever here. The parade floats have giant letter blocks spelling out superhero, and Juggernaut is smashing through them. So the physical destruction of the parade is the sound effect. The letters aren't onomatopoeia labeling the action like we often see in comics. They're the action itself. The debris is the crack and the wham. It just happens to spell something else. It's one layer of meta on top of another. Real world comic creators or characters in the comic watching a villain destroy floats shaped like comic book letters, which function as the comic book sound effects. That would normally describe the destruction, but here we see it physically. Englehart just leans into the absurdity, and it's genuinely really neat. It's like the medium is like eating itself. So during this chaos, Glynis Wine goes missing. So Len Wine runs off to find her. Hank tells Vera to check into a nearby motel while he investigates. She doesn't really know him as an investigator, so that's just a weird thing there. But once Vera is out of sight, Hank changes it back into the Beast form and runs off into the woods and throws down with Juggernaut big time. Beast quickly figures out that his enhanced strength still isn't remotely in the same weight class as Juggernaut. He attempts to remove Juggernaut's helmet, then tries to create distance between them and figure out a strategy. When that doesn't work, Juggernaut runs him down on top of the local dam. It's always something weird like that. Beast outmatched. He cuts his losses and just retreats. Hank slips back into his human disguise and takes refuge at Tom Fagan's costume party. Juggernaut, having locked onto Beast's emanation, tracks him there and he sort of smashes through the wall. Hank runs up to the attic and Juggernaut follows, orders him to face him. Hank does, and pulls off his synthetic human mask, revealing his actual beast face underneath. The Juggernaut is genuinely startled here. He thought that Hank Hank as a furry was in the costume, and that reversal causes a moment of shock. And that's the shock that Hank needs. Beast knocks Juggernaut down the stairs hard enough to jar loose that helmet. And as the clock strikes midnight, the Juggernaut panics and claims he is doomed. He tries to flee. The Marvel's writer's car is right there, and Juggernaut attempts to take it, but the car won't start. Remember, it's a crappy car. Earlier, we had these like foreshadowing moments about how crappy the car is, and now it doesn't work. Beast resumes the attack and notices the Juggernaut is rapidly aging as the fight continues. The Juggernaut explains that his time in Oblivion has caused accelerated aging, and when the Beast was able to defeat Juggernaut, his hate turned to fear, and now he must return to the Void Dimension and die. Juggy ain't dead. So the crossover to some other comics is related to Englehart's car. The car is later involved in a subplot that threads across to DC's Justice League of America number 103, and it concludes in Thor 207, as I mentioned at the top of this issue. It's a genuine, informal inter-company crossover where the same writers appear as characters in all three of these comic books. Glynis's disappearance is one of those threads, and it's not resolved in Amazing Adventures. You can check out those other books if you want to find out what actually happens to her. I also want to talk through those two new pages in Amazing Adventures number 17. The first page is a setup from Hank in furry form. Then the issue tells the story we already covered in those X books. The closing page is him just saying goodbye for now, and this black paneling here is striking, and the Beast looks awesome here for sure. Avengers number 107. Let's see. Pietro is not in this issue, and while Wanda is in the C story, but she's a prisoner with no agency. Paying attention to which artist drew which, this is a noticeable early interior penciling for Jim Starlin, with Tuska handling the Cap flashback pages and Starlin taking the present day sequences. The split is very visible in the art if you're looking for it, and Starlin's art is really good, but Wanda doesn't have any beats. She's just a cameo in this book. Amazing Adventures number 16 is a complete collapse. And it's a total letdown from a story that was really headed to high highs. Amazing Adventures will pivot entirely to another character. The Patsy Walker storyline and the Linda Donaldson Agent number 9 Secret Empire infiltration of the Brand Corporation, they all just dangle here completely unresolved. Englehart picks up those threads. He picks them up years later in Avengers and Captain America, but Amazing Adventures it just stops. The Hank and Vera Canadian trip to save the entire world story wraps up in Hulk 161, which we'll cover soon. Actually, I think it's the next episode of this show. But it's painful how badly this ball was dropped. It was really driving me nuts how this even happened, and thankfully there is a little info, not enough, but a little about what happened from Steve Englehart himself. He has a website, steveenglehart.com, where he talks about this series here, and here's actually what he says. I'll just quote him. The series was actually shut down with number 16, but its replacement in Amazing Adventures was late. So I whipped out a mostly reprint issue, stringing together the Beast's origin story from a serial in the earlier X-Men books with some new bridging material. Since number 16 left us mid-story, I concluded it a few months later in the Incredible Hulk number 161. Okay, so I will put a link to this description and his page in case you're interested in reading more of his thoughts. It's a fun website for comic nerds, actually. I really enjoy it. Anyway, we had 4 perfect issues of this Beast story, then a slight misstep in the last issue, but this is just a complete collapse. Bringing in Quasimodo 3 issues ago made sense for the story, but bringing in the Griffin last issue made less sense. It was ignorable at the time, but it kind of ruined the banger parade that we were on. But why Juggernaut here? This is not a Villain of the Week book. It's a story about Hank McCoy's hubris and his need to dig a deeper hole rather than to ask his friends for help. I could see how Vera could have been a part of that pattern, but Juggernaut, I mean, he just isn't. I mean, the art here is great, but man, this is a real bummer. Steve Englehart's car is currently somewhere in the DC universe. Check out Jordy.com for character info, reading lists, and whatever other things I'm cooking up. New episodes drop Wednesdays at noon and Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern. I have never been to Rutland, Vermont. Apparently, it has mystical properties. They don't seem to have any official comic book stores, and I am considering quitting my job to go open one. Who's coming with me?